Good morning. Wait a second here. Okay. All right. Well, you see this gap up here. And so we have to assess, is it significant or not? And I guess it isn't too much of a surprise that markets are up a bit, considering these cues move down to this major support level. There's going to be buyers there. As you know, it closed pretty weak at the end of last week. And there's news. It's always news. News gapping it up here on Apple and Google and NVIDIA having this conference, so on and so forth. And the big news is Wednesday on the Fed decision where they'll do nothing, but everyone will focus on what he's got to say at 2:30. All right, so gapping up almost into the middle of the range, pretty darn close. You can see where the cursor is on the hourly chart. The middle of the range, give or take, is 440, maybe a little bit more. Lots of congestion there. So going nowhere. We've been talking about this. Pretty much the middle to end of last week, ranges within ranges. And you can see pivot highs and pivot lows. Now it gaps up close to the middle of the range. And we'll see where it goes from here. Probably not too far from where it is, I'm thinking, since as we look at the bigger range, we see there's lower pivot highs here and just congestion. So I think we're going to in for more ping pong back and forth as far as the markets go. And they're not moving too much. I guess this is where the news came out. I'm not sure, but considering this whipsaw, certainly looks that way. Spiders, kind of the same pattern there, huh? Middle of the range, actually almost exactly in the middle of the range as we look at the cursor on the hourly chart, and we've got other pivots right here. So we've got nearby support intraday and nearby resistance, and that suggests to me initially, I don't know, I would assume for the half hour or so that it's probably not likely to go much of anywhere, but bounce around between these levels. And so does it move back down toward Friday's open? Does it move up toward that resistance? So the deeper it goes toward the highs, black and white, the more bullish it is. So anytime prices can retrace toward where they were, in this case higher, that's positive, and back down toward the lows, negative. Pretty common sense. Now, the weekly charts we see momentum has been slowing for 2 weeks. And these lows now become pretty significant based on the weekly time frame if they should break below there. And you can see that's, this area of major support on the S&P ETF. So, as we do every morning, take note of significant support and resistance. The price is gapping significantly, and they're not. SPX, and I think this makes it maybe a little more difficult since, where it's gapping is based on spiders and gapping in the middle of the range. And there really isn't enough premium down here to do this early on. But what I'm thinking is I'd want to see this move lower if we were going to do that, since the prices are gapping up here. And I guess whatever direction Google and Apple take at the open might be where generally the markets go in the short term. So unlikely to get up above here, and see where things go in the first 15 to 20 minutes. So if markets go up, getting above 5,200 would be ideal, 5,200 or above. And if it moves down here or a little below, would be ideal for the 0 DTE. There isn't any significant news coming out today, so other than what's already out. So getting below these areas or above that area would suggest it ain't going there today. Transports. Well, last week we were talking about little range inside the bigger range, going nowhere. And so it broke down inside the smaller range. And the next area of support is right here. Again, this is a terrible chart to be trading directionally. For credit spreads, it's pretty much ideal because it suggests it isn't going to go much of anywhere until things start to move one way or another. Other things, of course, interest rates, support, resistance, significant move up, markets moved down, they're at resistance, and it looks kind of unchanged, give or take. So another situation where it's unlikely to go much of anywhere. Right. Put that up there, change it to red, and another trading range. Now, that being said, just like this move down was bearish, that move up is even more bullish because rather than moving down with slowing momentum and a couple of bars down to support is one bar, giant bar, could be an igniting bar. It didn't clear resistance, but the type of igniting bar that suggests interest rates can move higher. And so now what we look for in the smaller time frame is if they was pushing up above here, we don't do anything because let's just say whatever this was, XYZ, some people call that a breakout. And it is, it's clearing resistance, but where are you going to put your stop after a momentum move like that? You can go below the wide range bar, of course, but the significant support is down here. So over the next couple of days, if this moves sideways at this resistance area, it suggests at that point it could break out. And that could be, of course, bearish for the markets for interest rates to go up, especially with the Fed, chair going to be speaking on Wednesday, whatever he says, if this does break out. So again, we'll be keeping an eye on this, see, does it start moving back down? Does it go sideways? There's a lot to keep an eye on when things aren't moving. And before I get to other things, look at this. I talked about this in the weekend letter. Now, this is coming up to resistance, but commodities moving up sharply as they did. This is an ETF. And agriculture, which is part of that commodity, moving up as it did. Interest rates moving up. These aren't positive things, as far as inflation goes. And of course, looking at crude oil, took out the top of the range. Now it moved up and got a big green bar. And so now it's just not doing much of anything. But that's another negative for the inflation goes. If you've got commodities moving up, ags moving up, crude oil moving up, interest rates that look like they're going to go higher, those are all negatives. And, in 2020 hindsight, gold moving up as it did kind of makes sense. I wasn't looking at those other ETFs at the time as this went up. It's just, okay, gold is breaking out. We were talking about it being in a range, seemed like forever. And, those things going up while gold's going up, again, brings us back to, this inflation theme that's been going on for quite a while now. And, what's the Fed going to do on Wednesday? What's he going to say? They see all of these things that's happening. And this idea of, what's been floating around, or, earlier it was like, oh, they're going to cut interest rates in April or May, then June. Maybe it's not going to happen. And, it's like, okay, big disappointment. And with that slowing momentum, weekly charts extended, it's suggestive that markets should move lower in the short term. Energy stocks have been moving up, and we've been talking about that. This looks like it should get up to the top of the trading range. And well, the dollar, that moved up, not as significantly as the interest rates did, but you can see, that was grinding up, not doing too much here. SMHs, pulled back to the rising 20. So that's going to be some buyers there. We talked about AMD in the green room. Should stabilize and bounce from here. It's gapping up a little bit. So that if semiconductors are going to go up, this should go up. It's not an ideal buy setup because of the angle that it came down at. I'd love to see it a third day where it hanging here. That's an ideal kind of situation with a pullback like that. MRVL, that's down on major support. That's gapping up a little bit. So a little backing and filling here. This could be great for day trades, and assuming that semiconductors will move up. And let's see, Bitcoin taking a little bit of a rest. Again, slowing momentum, not doing much of anything here. Super strong. There will be buyers on dips. We would assume that. And just take a look at the euro here. That's gapping up. So dollar down a little bit, kind of along the lines of, the cues on major support. Things are gapping up, dollar moving down a little bit, interest rates not doing much of anything. And so it suggests to me there's nothing much decisive here to think that there's something of significance is going to happen here in the short term. So get our bias in alignment, marking off our support and resistance areas, and see what unfolds here. Retailing. There's a lot of bullish charts. This is on support. I don't know how much of this kind of action at the end of the day on Friday was the options expiration. We have to believe that in part that had some influence on these ETFs or stocks that moved up sharply at the end of the day. That's typically what happens on an options expiration. Now, again, we'll see where things shake out in the next couple of hours, and of course at the end of the day. And probably not going to, I'm thinking not going to do too much of anything because of waiting for the Fed. IWM, the Russell, we've got this little topping pattern here on support, all of these pivots. Where is it? Gapping up a little bit, coming off here. So with so many things near support and this gap up, it doesn't present us with the kind of patterns that we want to go long. We don't want to go short. So what are we going to do? I know I'm going to look for certain things that are in the newsletter that certainly look like pretty good ideas, that for swings that could do well. We'll see how they play out and what they're doing here pre-market. Dan will cover some of them. And there's not too much of anything is really moving here. And it's been kind of a little bit of a boring thing. Let's just see, XLF financials. I think this is part of the key to the broader markets because they've been so strong, kind of this grinding, self-correcting uptrend. And as long as they stay strong, momentum is slowing down. So it wouldn't take anything of great significance to break some support. But the strength of these move suggests, intermediate term that, look, whatever correction might happen, it's going to be viable. So this is, something else I talked about in the weekend letter, and we talked about it here. This 13-week T-bills where they broke out. I said, why is that going up like that with all of this talk about the Fed cutting? And then it abruptly came all the way back down again. It's like, okay, most have no idea what to make out of all of the news and so on. And now it's back up again. And that takes us right back to, another trading range situation. And no matter where we look, other than some individual stocks that look pretty good, we got a lot of this trading range situation. So keeping that in perspective and our biases in perspectives tells us to, stay out of the blender, so to speak, generally, and, pick your spots and do what we do day to day. But there aren't a tremendous amount of opportunities like there were a short time ago. And that's it. All yours, Dan. See how it unfolds over the next day or two.
Good morning. Yeah, I don't know if this Google thing is what all the excitement about. There more. I think overnight markets were up too. But yeah, so in the weekend video, I said I was fully bearish under Friday's low. Um, provided just as a general comment, we don't retrace deep into this trading range. And we are going pretty deep into it. So my bearish bias is back to neutral, which is fine. We just trade into individual patterns. Let's see. What alarms are going off here? BBY. This is a put spread idea. See, not directional at all. And that's the beauty of put spreads is directional setups or candidates, but also just bullish turns. I wouldn't touch this thing long. But what about a put spread under last week's low? You think that's going to hold? I do. We actually have a call spread in Google where this thing's we have I think the 148s, so this thing's way against us. So we'll just pull the stop and just wait for more information. I don't know what to do. AI alarm. This popped, I guess. Obviously, the sheep, anything AI related, it's going up. So they probably heard, Gemini and oh, let me buy this. And now it's coming back to Earth, but that's a put spread idea. SYY, beautiful consolidation. Bull rectangle. Look at that on the weekly. We did an MT live 2 weeks ago on classical patterns. Right there, that's a bull rectangle. I think has earnings though. I forget this. No, GIS looks a little similar. Well, a little. GIS has earnings this week, but we're gonna consider a naked option trade there. ET. My alarm went off. I see it coming in. This is a breakout. All time frames. DBI. I see an alarm, but I don't see any prints, but that's a nice long setup. Continuation bar, 100% retracement, correction bar, trades under prior bars low, closing breakout. Looks great, DBI. A Marvel here, middle chart. I was watching this on Friday. Perkin pre-market here, that's a put spread idea. Now this one, it came down so far and fluid that 30-minute high, yes, I think it can bounce 2 to 3 days. But you surely don't expect new highs anytime soon with a collapse like that. An AMD alarm, put spread idea. Let me put him down here. And similar, but see how this one's different with the rising 20, rising 50. but this one is a lot stronger than Marvel. The same kind of deal. It could bounce 2 to 3 days and also put spread. A Nike alarm. We shorted this on Friday. Relative weakness. My low alarm went off at 99. So that's a fantastic sign. Michael Jackson alarm. This thing ripped. And then, I guess the news is the government's thinking of declass, not whatever the word is, lowering the serious rating of it, which in effect just makes it, less of a problem of an illegal drug. All right, those are all my alarms. Let's see what else I got over here. NVIDIA's in play here today. They were talking about, I think they have some AI conference today. And you know how we talk about sentiment? And of course, we can read it on the put call, but just sentiment of people and their statements. So there's a guy on CNBC today, one of the regular announcers, I forget his name. And he's like, can you believe that NVIDIA hasn't made a new high in the last 10 days? It's like, just think about what that statement says. It's like you're expecting it to make new highs every few days and the stock's never going to come down. So that's a contrarian indicator of excessive bullishness to me. But we need a pattern. So now, with this gap up, if it now takes out Friday's low, well, Friday's low is down here, but I'm going to set an alarm at 880, because then that would be a deep retracement with giving up the gap. So 880. Yeah, so got Fed meeting. But yeah, so Greg and I both kind of wrote in our own words this inflation thing, and they just get on the TV and say, no, inflation's coming down. It's like the sky's blue. No, it's not, it's red. We got a red sky. What's wrong with you? I mean, so I'm curious of what Powell's gonna say with commodities, with oil. I read in Barron's, cocoa, chocolate is at a 10-year high. They had a chart, and it's a climactic sell setup on chocolate. Housing, so on and on. WRB, so that's NVIDIA. I got an alarm. So Aichi, I set an alarm 8580. This is yours. IR, I set an alarm 9120. APO, I see one gap up here. Let me put it on the other computer. Ideally, I'll open flat, and then I'll set an alarm at 111. AMD, we talked about. STI, I saw perking. This trades like a toy. I don't know what sector it's in. Probably AI would be my guess. HCP. And then this was an M top. Now it's a big old gap. So it's a failed M top. I think they might have some buyout talks or something. I think talking about buyout talks, I think I read something about they were a buyout candidate and maybe that they're not getting as much premium. But look at this big bar down here on volume. So I'll put that in a window and see what it does. Riley has some accounting problems. Nothing to do. IE, why am I watching you? It's a bull rectangle, but it's so sloppy. But it is a bull rectangle. Oh, I think Greg mentioned that in the weekend video, because I have it here by FedEx. Uh, Newell, there was an article in Barron's saying there were 8 like buyout candidates just because they're beat up so much, I guess. And I don't read the article. I don't care 2 hoots whether something's buyout candidate. All I care is, okay, that's good news, for people wanting to go bottom fishing and follow Barron's. So I just look at a chart. And so here's a wide range of knighting from a bottoming pattern. So, I mean, to me, it'd be a no-brainer 7.5 put, but there's no juice. PayPal had a positive Barron's. It's it's been on my watch list for months, along with Square, but it's just I can't get a good entry. BBY favorable Barron's. Oh, that's why I found this thing as a put spread idea. There was something positive in Barron's. That's what got my attention. Oracle had a positive Barron's, but no pattern. Mr. T, why am I looking at you? No idea. Tyson is a continuation breakout. SYY, we talked about. Number of ETFs look lower. So hack IYZ is telecom, I think. This went from a bullish watch list to a bearish watch list in 2 days. But our low alarm is not going to go off. MTOM looks lower. AI, we mentioned put spread, TAN, solar, still a dog. XHE, we should be watching this sector to short a bounce. It's a breakdown daily, weekly. It's a sell setup on the monthly. Michael Jackson, we talked about. D-Dog under Friday's low is a call spread. NDAC is a buy setup with a monster 180 reversal. NOVT, same, but the difference is I don't like these 3 bars. So this would be a great put spread, but I think they didn't have weeklies and it was too spready. AVAV, nothing. Aluminum, looking to short a bounce. IoT, we are short puts. Uber, short Friday's low. AMD, we know about. Dollar Tree, would have been a put spread idea, down a lot. It's not a full 180 reversal, obviously, but buyer stepped up. Churd, I know that's Sam's trade. Churd, breakdown failure, closing breakout. It's at this prior high with the markets up, but watch Churd as maybe a 10, 15, 30-minute high. I like. RTX is triggering. That's a nice breakout. Let's set a new alarm. Actually, let's do 5-minute high. Let's change it 93.09.
DOR move up a little bit, hasn't broke out yet. It's got a nice long base.
Alex, I saw your note about natural gas. There was something in the journal today that mentioned it being down a lot. India Romeo alarm. Q spiders holding well. IWM pulling in. India Romeo. This was and this is an Aichi picture. I can tell Aichi patterns. All right, so spiders are bullish gap, bullish pre-market, but you got a wall of resistance there. I'm surely not playing in that. Qs have brick wall here. But the pre-market bullish activity, says it wants to churn through resistance. It's just not my setup. I ain't doing it. Yeah, RSG, man, that thing has been trying so hard to get moving. Yeah, check. Yeah, that'd be a great 30-minute high trade or 10, whatever. All right, NOTV, let's buy 5-minute high over 920. RTX alarm.